Happy New Year! It's the 1st of January and it's about 9 a.m. in the morning, and this is the 1440th episode of One Thing Today and the 17th Go Gently podcast, and I'm standing on the causeway on Tanybwlch beach, and I think I'm going to just take a stroll behind me to the end of the causeway. Often it's quite stormy here and I wouldn't walk out along there, but today it feels quiet and reasonably peaceful, and I think it would be nice to just take a walk along there, and it would be lovely if you would join me. It is so quiet. I drove into town and I think I passed 4 cars all the way into town, and I skirted around the edge of town to get here, but even there I think I only saw 1 car, so I suspect everybody is tucked up in bed on New Year's morning after a busy night of partying. But these days I'm not really a New Year's Eve party animal, and I have to say it's rather nice to wake up this morning feeling well and in reasonably fine fettle, something like that. Feeling good anyway this morning, and it feels really nice to come out and just be in town when it's really quiet, nobody around. I haven't walked along here for a very long time, as you can see by the water on the path here, that the sea does crash across this quite a lot, but I suspect this morning I'm going to be okay, so rather nice just to come and have a wander along here. It's been a very, very long time since I've walked here. This is the entrance to Aberystwyth Harbour, so this is one side of the entrance, and just over there is the other. This used to be a tidal harbour, so you could only get in when the tide was high, but quite a few years ago now, when the marina, which you could possibly just see ahead of me there, those flats, was built, some sort of jiggery-pokery was done that made the harbour possible to enter at any time. Ooh, it feels slightly unsettling being here, I have to say. I'm glad the tide is low and reasonably quiet. When I first came here, I imagined that this light in front of me was a lighthouse. And I have a yearning to spend some time in a lighthouse. I don't know if there are any working lighthouses still in the UK. I suspect there aren't. But there's something about the isolation of a lighthouse that really, really appeals to me. But today, just walking along here, it does feel that sense of isolation. It's rather lovely, actually. Just knowing that really aren't very many people about. It feels like quite a special moment, actually. Gosh. Ooh, the water is just splashing at the end. Oh. I'm not sure I'm going right to the edge. I had a yearning to put my feet in the sea. I think I mentioned in the last podcast, but this isn't the spot to do it. Let's just have a little look. There. The Irish Sea. Gosh, it feels a little bit like being on a boat. Another lovely view of Aberystwyth. This is the south of town here, so just the edge of town. And I have lived at this end of town in the past. Well, I've told you before, I've lived, well, just below that hill there where there isn't a building anymore. And I've also lived just a little bit behind those coloured houses you can see there as well in the past. There, I think I'm going to walk back. Yes, it does feel slightly strange being out here. It wasn't the walk I intended to take. I was going to walk along the beach. Maybe we will do a little bit of that, we'll see. Or maybe this is enough for today. I don't know. There's Pendinas in front of us. And you might just be able to see my little yellow car parked at the end of the causeway. I wonder how you spend New Year and New Year's Day. Are you somebody that likes to make New Year's resolutions? I sort of stopped doing that quite a few years ago. The sort of pressure at this time of year when energy is low to start new things hasn't felt right for a very long time, but I have to say this year I am feeling quite a sense of newness as the year's starting, and I'm not going to make any New Year's resolutions, but I am going to have a ponder around this year and how I'd like to be in it. I think I'm hoping, or my plan so far is to spend January pretty much in the same lovely hibernatory state I've been in for the last week or so, and then sort of slowly emerge, maybe make some plans in February, ready to start the year properly in March. And I do think that sort of slowness to the beginning of the year is something I very much crave, and it's something I've worked towards over the last few years. But I do think this year it's going to be easier for me to properly hibernate in January. I've cut back on all but a very few commitments, so my time is very much my own, and I think it is going to be possible to really go slowly as the year's starting. Oh gosh, it's starting to get busy here. There's another car parked that wasn't there when I arrived, and I've just seen another one driving along. I wonder if it's going to appear in a moment. And I wonder if you have a craving to start the year slowly. There's so much hype around the very beginning of the year. We sort of rush to make plans and commitments that I'm sure most people don't keep. But just letting yourself off the hook, or even making a decision not to start anything new in January, and if you really do want to start it perhaps in February, even March, you'll know that you actually really want to do it, as opposed to thinking you ought to do it. Oh, let's just go down to the sea. I really would like to put my feet in the sea. I shall see you on the beach in a moment. I need to clamber over these stones. Oh, I'm going to go a bit further forward. I think I did just get a little bit wetter than I intended. I'm not quite clear whether the tide's going in or out at the moment, but I think I should stay. at a bit of a distance. I do hope your 2019 is starting well. Do stay tuned if you'd like to join me for a 20-minute work session in my studio in a moment. I shall see you there. Take care. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. Bye bye. It's been a few days since my New Year's Day's walk and I've been having a very quiet week. If you're following me on Patreon, you'll know or you'll recognise where I'm sitting. It's rather chilly outside, so I've decided possibly for all of January and maybe into February that I'm going to record my work session videos here in the house. Added to that is the feeling that I really want to encourage myself to hibernate as much as possible, certainly throughout January, and being in here in the warm with the fire is a really good way to help me stay in this hibernatory state, which feels really important at this time of year, at the start of the year. And yeah, maybe you'd like to join me for a hibernatory or a semi-hibernatory start to the year. It feels like a good thing to do. It's something I've tried to do over the years, but this year it feels like I'm being more successful with it. In part, I think, because of all the changes I've been making around work. So January is a much, much emptier month than it normally is for me. It's not usually that busy, but this year it's it's pretty much empty. I do have a little trip planned, which I'll perhaps talk about as I'm working, but even that is going to be a restful thing. Would you like to join me for 20 minutes of something? Let's wind up the timer. There we go, 20 minutes on the clock. What are you going to work on today, I wonder? I'm still crocheting and I'm working on putting together those granny squares that I think I was making in the last episode of the podcast. I'm pretty sure I was. I don't think I said what I was making, but I'm making a cushion cover for a friend. When I first started making these squares, I wasn't quite sure what they were going to be, but I knew they were going to be a present for somebody. So this is the first half of the cushion cover, which I finished, and now I'm making two more sections, smaller sections, that are going to be on the other side of this, so that then I can fold and put the cushion cover inside, the cushion inside rather. And I'm rather enjoying this bit of the work. It's nice and relaxing, really easy. No counting involved, apart from just keeping note of where I am with my rows. So I've joined the squares together and now I'm making a border around the edge, and I think on that one I did eight rounds, so I'm repeating that on these other two sections. I had thought that this would be ready as well, first of all it was going to be a Christmas gift, and then I thought it'd be a New Year's gift, but I wonder if it's going to be a middle of the month gift actually, at the rate I'm going, and that's all right. I might take it away with me when I go away. I'm going to spend 5 days at one of my favourite places, Gladstone's Library. If you're a long time listener to the One Thing Today podcast, you'll know that Gladstone's Library is a place I like to go to. Sort of a retreat, I suppose. It's a residential library in North Wales. in a building that used to be owned by the Victorian Prime Minister Gladstone, and it housed then his huge collection of books, and it still does, plus other books. And it's a place of research for people, and also a place of rest, and it's somewhere I've been going to for probably more than 10 years now, though I've not been for the last 18 months. I taught a course there back in May 2016, and I've not been back since, so I'm really looking forward to going back. It was lovely teaching the course, and I did have a little bit of rest after the course finished, but it was a working visit really. So this is an extension of my hibernation visit. So I'm not planning on doing anything. I shall take some crocheting probably, and my typewriter, and I might write some letters. But I'm not really going with any expectations. I'm being driven, and I'm being picked up at the end, which means I won't have a car while I'm there, which is a good thing, I think. It means I have no choice really but to sit still while I'm there. If you are in the UK, or even if you're not, I would definitely recommend it as somewhere to check out if you like being quiet. I think they do have a television, but it's tucked away in a little room. So there's not that sort of distraction. The main sitting room, the Gladstone room, just has sofas and two fireplaces in fact. So it's a good place to go just to chat. If you're there on your own, it's quite easy just to chat and get to know people. And I'll be on my own for a couple of days. The first couple of days I'm there, and then I'm meeting a friend for the last 3 days. So it'll be a good combination, I think, of being by myself, but also having some company. I often find when I go somewhere, well, actually I don't go very many places often when I go there. Meal times, certainly when I first arrive, can feel a little bit awkward, and even sometimes a bit stressful. That sort of sitting and perhaps sitting alone, or maybe having a conversation when actually I don't really feel up to it. It can feel a bit odd, but things do settle down after a little while. In fact, what I often do is spend my first night in my room. I take a picnic with me, and I sort of get acclimatised in my room, and then emerge the next day for breakfast, and it feels a bit easier. I do sort of suspect that on this trip, because it's so near the beginning of the year, it'll be quite quiet. Don't know, we'll see. So I am looking forward to that, but I think it's not going to break my hibernatory state. It's going to help it, I think. One of the many lovely things about the place is that every room has a radio instead of a television. And it's rather nice to just tune into the radio and listen to something. In fact, I spent quite a lot of time in my room. There's always a desk. There's a desk in all the rooms. And a kettle, of course, so I can make tea. So I don't actually spend that much time in the library itself, which is, I mean, it is amazing. If you go and look at their website, the library itself is an amazing room. But yeah, I don't tend to work in there very much. I mean, I'm not really going to work anyway, but even when I have been there to work, I've tended to work in my room. Though I suspect the friend that I'm going to meet will want to go and work in the library. She's working on a novel, and I suspect she'll enjoy going to sit in the library. I might sit in the lounge by the fire and and crochet or read. So that's my start of the year. When I come back, it'll be mid-January. I'm going on the 12th, I think. Is that right? Yes, the 12th, so it's a little way away yet. Then perhaps not by the time you watch this. By the time I've edited this and put it up, maybe it'll be nearer time for me to go. Think about packing and things and what I need to take, because I'm being driven. I don't need to worry too much. I won't have to carry anything, so I probably will overpack a little bit, but that's all right. So I wonder how your year is starting. As I was saying on the walk, I don't tend to make New Year's resolutions. In fact, I often try and avoid starting my year until quite a lot later in it. Certainly the end of January or even the end of February, the beginning of March feels like a more natural time to sort of emerge and start doing things. So I do wonder this year how much I'm going to do. I'm very much experimenting with just following and seeing what feels right. But this week, one thing I've done is bought myself a new diary, a paper diary. I've not had a diary since I was working in the School of Art here in Aberystwyth, which was more than 10 years ago now. And then I used to run workshops in the digital lab, so I used to have a lot of appointments. So I used to use quite a big diary. It was sort of a big moleskin page-a-day diary. And I've really been fancying having a paper diary again. I've been using Google Calendar for a long time, and it's been really useful for that, for sort of keeping appointments and things, but I now have a lot less appointments. So I thought I would experiment with having a paper diary again. So I've ordered myself, I haven't opened it yet, I've ordered myself a little moleskin. When it arrived, it felt really small, actually. It's got, I don't know if you can see on there, it's got the days down one side and a little bit of a lined page the next. So you get a week to view, plus some space to make notes. And it didn't really feel, when I got it, like it was very big. But actually, the whole point at the moment is not to plan too much. I don't want to forget things that I am going to do, and there will be a few of those, I expect. Plus the usual sort of birthdays and anniversaries to remember, and medical appointments and things. But yeah, not a lot. So small is probably good. I was thinking this morning actually that I want to, when I do finally open it, and I might do that later today, I want to transfer birthdays, the appointments I've already got, etc., to it. And I think it's going to be interesting doing that, because it's going to give me a bit of an overview of the year ahead in a way that I haven't had for years. I mean, a Google Calendar is just an ongoing, a running thing, just add things to it as and when. And just sort of the idea of having the year, well, sort of laid out, and not all of it, obviously, not at this stage, but I don't know, it just feels like it would have a clearer shape to it. I think, and I think that feels rather nice, actually. So I'm quite looking forward to that this year. I've also bought myself a paper address book, and as I write letters, and I'm writing a few this month, I'm transferring the addresses to my address book. So I won't be using my online contact list anywhere near as much. Well, that feels rather nice too. So, but having this diary feels like a new thing, and it feels nice to have a new thing at the beginning of the year. That sort of newness feels good, feels right, as opposed to New Year's resolutions, which often just feel like I don't know, a bit of a whip to beat oneself with. I'm not sure if I've ever made a New Year's resolution that has stuck. The changes I make happen at different times, I think, when they feel right, rather than just because it's a certain time of the year. But it's interesting. I think there's some things it does feel nice to have at this time of year, and I think they've been things I've not been having, actually. So I want to embrace the newness around stationery, perhaps. Perhaps that's what New Year is about for me this year. So yes, have you got New Year's traditions that work for you? It's interesting. I think by and large I've made sort of Christmas right for me over the years. Not quite. I didn't get it quite right this year. There was a day that felt really not very nice at all over Christmas, but I did get back to some equilibrium. But by and large, I've sort of done the things. I do the things that feel right for me now. But New Year, I haven't really done that before, or at least perhaps not as consciously. I don't know. But I wonder if I'm starting perhaps a few new traditions again, or resurrecting some old ones, like getting a diary. There always used to be a diary in my Christmas stocking when I was little. I'm sure when I was small I had no appointments. I probably spent January writing people's birthdays in, and then not really using my diary again after that. Maybe that'll be the same this year. I don't know. We'll see. How are we doing? On the 5 minutes or so. It has been nice working on this cushion cover over the festive period. It's felt like a lovely manageable project. It still takes me longer than I thought it would, but that's all right. And it's manageable both in terms of kind of carrying it about, but also in terms of how long it's going to take. I think probably hibernation for me is going to be about having just a few little small projects, or a small project perhaps, to do. Book to read, little project to work on. Bit of cooking as I'm able, making soups. And just letting the days come as they will. Follow the energy rather than push things into a shape. I mean, that, I suppose, is sort of my philosophy generally, but it feels even more important at this time of year. I think, and I'm really, really enjoying the sort of darkness at the moment too. We've had a couple of bright days, and they always make me feel a bit as if I ought to be doing something, and I'm not ready yet. So I don't mind when I wake up and I see it's a cloudy day, and today, I mean, I did wonder if there'd be enough light to record this video, but beyond that, I don't mind at all that it's dark. Yeah, the days are starting to get a little bit longer. I think perhaps by the end of January there'll be a lot more light. I think if January is a month of hibernation, perhaps February will be a month of sort of gentle emerging, perhaps doing a little bit more, but not a lot. Ooh, I just realised I didn't write down that I'd finished the last round. Let's do that before I forget. I'm just about to finish the next one. Oh, that was very well timed. Oh, I hope you've had a good 20 minutes. It's been lovely sitting here by the fire with you, just doing a little something. I'd love to hear, as always, what you've been up to. And if you would like to join me for more of these work sessions, probably in front of the fire, then do pop over to Patreon. Your support would be very, very gratefully received. And there's a few things that I do there that you might find useful and helpful. If, like me, you want to work at building a gentle, creative life. If you enjoy the podcast and you're watching on YouTube, please do give it a thumbs up and do hit the subscribe button. It really helps. And if you want to get a notification every time these podcasts arrive on YouTube, just click that little bell icon, and I think then you get sent a notification every time the podcast appears. Take care. Have a lovely start to the year. I hope you can find some coziness if that's what you need, and make some room for some hibernation or semi-hibernation if that is the right thing for you as well. Take care.